I want to ask you something. When was the last time you made something genuinely complicated because you were scared it wasn't good enough? And I'm not talking about work. I'm talking about you, your ideas, your decisions, your life. Why I ask is because I've done it. I've taken the simplest of things, a feeling, a direction, a desire, and wrapped it in so many layers of, but what if? And it has to look like this. That by the time I was done, I couldn't even find the original thing anymore. And I think a lot of us are living there in the complicated. And we don't even know it. So let's talk about simplicity. It's something I really, really am very preoccupied about. And I don't mean minimalism, the aesthetics. I don't mean getting rid of your furniture. I mean the practice of simplicity. The radical, almost uncomfortable act of letting things be less. It's a tough one, but it's so worth it. Slowly, by removing things, not adding them, this is my perception about complexity. It's not actually a sign of intelligence, it's usually a sign of fear. When we overplan, overpolish, overexplain, when we try to make something perfect before we let anyone see it, we're not being thorough, we're protecting ourselves. We're building walls around our ideas so that if somebody criticizes them, we can say, well, it wasn't really finished yet anyway. Do you recognize it? Well, perfectionism isn't a standard. It's a hiding place. And here's the thing. Perfection doesn't exist. It truly doesn't. We need flaws. We need rough edges. We need things to be transparent, even a little broken, because that's what makes them real. That's what makes people lean in. That's what makes them trust you. Think about the last time you connected deeply with someone's story. Was it because they had it all figured out? Or was it because they were honest about the mess? I can promise you, it's always the mess. Whether you're sharing a life challenge, pitching a business idea, explaining something to a colleague, or just trying to be understood by the people closest to you, simplicity is what lets people in. Complexity is what keeps them out. Now, I want to flip this because I think simplicity gets misunderstood as passive, as if letting go means giving up. But it's actually the opposite. When you strip away the need to control the outcome, when you stop trying to force an idea into the shape you've already decided has to be, you create space. And in that space, something organic can actually grow. New ideas emerge from overcrowded minds. They emerge from cleared ones. Think about how breakthroughs actually happen. In the shower, on a walk, in the half-awake moments before your alarm goes off. Not at the desk when you're grinding, not when you're forcing it. That's not coincidence. When you're not trying to control everything, your mind is finally free to make connections it couldn't see before. So simplicity isn't the end of creativity. It's the beginning of it. It's a thing that lets innovation breathe. It's how you discard the old exhausted ideas to make room for what actually wants to emerge. Less is more. Always is. And I know that sounds like a bumper sticker, but I mean it almost literally. Perfection becomes boring. You know what's exciting? Something real, something stripped back, something that still has a little life in it, some oxygen. So, where did I actually learn this? Not from a book, not from a mentor. Honestly, I learned it because I had no other choice. I grew up surrounded by expectations. who I was supposed to be, who I should become, what success was supposed to look like for someone like me. And the problem wasn't the people around me had bad intentions. Most of them didn't. They genuinely thought they were helping. But none of it matched who I actually was. Not even close. So I started trying things, trying something, feeling it out, realizing it wasn't mine. So I discarded it. Tried something else to start discarding again and again and again. At the time, it felt like failure, like I was behind, like everyone else already knew, and I was just stumbling around in the dark. But looking back, that process was actually the most important thing I ever did. Because every time I let something go, a belief about who I should be, an expectation I had inherited, someone else's definition of what a good life looks like, I was getting closer to something true. I had to peel things away, layer by layer. Old information from my parents, ideas I had absorbed just from being around certain people, values that I adopted without ever actually choosing them. I had to hold each one up and ask, is this mine? Does this belong to me still? Do I actually need to carry this? And mostly, the answer was no. Until I was left with almost nothing. Just the bare minimum of who I was. And that sounds scary. And it was the first time I couldn't breathe. But then I could actually start hearing myself. The thing is, I didn't arrive at simplicity gracefully. I didn't wake up one day and decide to let go of everything and float off into some enlightened, uncomplicated life. No, I resisted it. I kept trying to add more, fix more, understand more, control more, because that's what we are taught, right? That lie that the person who works hardest wins, that the most prepared person in the room has the most power, that if something goes wrong, it's because you didn't plan well enough. And I had to slowly, and I mean slowly, unlearn that. Whether it was work, relationship, or even just the way I thought about things. I kept coming back to the same questions where I'm making this harder than it needs to be, where I'm adding noise that doesn't belong there. And the more I asked it, the more I started to notice almost everywhere. I was over-explaining myself to people who hadn't asked for an explanation. I was preparing for conversations that never happened. I was building frameworks around feelings that just needed to be felt. Simplicity, for me, wasn't a philosophy I adopted. It was a direction I kept walking toward, slowly, imperfectly, until one day I realized there is just a lot less noise and a lot more clarity. So bring this along in the back of your mind, please. The next time you feel yourself getting complicated in your thinking, in a project, in a relationship, in a decision, I want you to pause and ask, what am I protecting here? Because complexity is usually protection. It's usually a wall. Somewhere behind the wall is actually the real thing. The simple, maybe messy, maybe still unformed thing that is worth more than any perfectly polished version of it. Let go of the pretenses, let go of the assumptions, let go of the idea that it needs to be more than what it is right now. Because the less you try to control it, the more organic it becomes. And organic things grows. Forced things stagnates. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. And real is simple. I'm still learning this genuinely. There are still moments where I catch myself spinning a simple thing into something enormous just because I'm afraid that simple isn't enough. But it is. It always has been. So start with less, see what grows. If this resonates with you, I'd love to know what's one thing in your life you've been complicating. Drop it in the comments if you feel like it. Not because I have the answers, but because naming it is already the beginning of letting go. And if you know someone who needs a reminder that they're allowed to make things simpler, you share this. And I will see you in the next one.